We have all walked through toy departments and been confronted with the large assortment of superhero toys that are available for purchase. There are action figures, shields, bikes, balls, to name a few. Not many of us think about the appropriateness of these superheroes for children as we wander past the numerous offerings. After all, superheroes are the fighters against all that is evil and wrong in the world. A superhero is an optimal role model for children to aspire to become with all of their positive attributes. Or are they? The superhero movie genre should be excellent for children. Or is it? Let's look at what sort of role model Captain America is in his first feature film, Captain America: The First Avenger. Is his behavior as a whole one that children should emulate? This Captain America movie begins in the present time when an expedition team locates a large ship vessel in the North Pole area. At closer look, a team member realizes they have discovered the body of Captain America, who has been missing for 70 years and presumed dead. Next, in the film, we are taken back in time to New York in the 1940s during the World War II, where a young, sickly man named Steve Rogers is being denied entry into the U.S. Army once again. Fast forward to yet another Army recruitment center. Scrawny Steve is at it again. He has caught the eye of the researcher, Dr. Abraham Erskine. Dr. Erskine pulls strings to allow him to enlist in the Army. Next, we are transported across the ocean to Germany, where Johann Schmidt heads Adolf Hitler's secret weapons division, Hydra. He is in search of the Tesseract, a crystal that is believed to possess the evil powers of the past gods. From this point on in the movie, we have the struggle between good and evil. Steve Rogers is transformed into Captain America, the good guy, and Johann Schmidt becomes the Red Skull, the evil guy. As both the sick, weakly guy and as the strong, powerful soldier, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, is loyal, selfless, brave, and determined, and always doing the right thing, regardless of what it takes to achieve it. After watching the superhero movie, Captain America: The First Avenger, I would have to argue it is not appropriate for some age groups of children because of the dialogue, the violence and special effects, and the sexual content. Now, the opposition would argue comic books are written for kids, therefore the superhero movies should be seen by kids. Another argument would be the language and the violence and special effects are things that are heard and seen on primetime television shows in the children's own living room. After researching different movie review sites on the internet, I decided we need to clarify the term children for this argument. I based my decision on the Common Sense Media movie review site. They have a movie rating bar that will tell a parent if a movie is appropriate or not appropriate for a certain age child. Also, according to the Common Sense Media, it will, quote, call out the minimum age for which the content is appropriate and relevant. Children aged 1 through 10 are the targeted age group used to gauge why Captain America: The First Avenger is not an appropriate film to be viewed by this audience. First, we must look at the dialogue. Now, it is tame compared to other superhero movies, but I still believe it is not appropriate for children. The curse words used in the movie are common ones that the children might hear their parents possibly use around the house. Children are great imitators and will repeat words or phrases that they hear and think are cool words to say. They would be inclined to imitate the language that Captain America and the others in the movie use as they recreate the film in their everyday play. There are also some sexist insults used in the film by soldiers that are meant to demean other fellow soldiers. With the rise of bullying, children do not need any help learning how to perfect that behavior. Next, the violence and special effects displayed in the movie could cause children to become fearful during and after viewing this Captain America movie. Once the backstory is told, which this age group would find boring and not relevant to their lives, there's frequent explosive action and weapons, which engulf buildings, vehicles, and soldiers in fireballs. The villain, Red Skull, has a monstrous skeletal face. that could be scary to young children, especially when they are at rest and thinking about the movie they just watched. When young children watch violent scenes, they have a tendency to want to imitate their favorite superhero with the same vigor shown in the movie. Children often do not understand that they cannot reenact the fight scenes with the same intensity as seen in the movie. Often this causes their play to escalate into full-blown fights because someone has gotten too far into character. In the article on the Comics Alliance website, Superheroes Are Bad for Boys, or Possibly Good for Boys, Esther Inglis Arkell found that a psychological study presented by Sharon Lamb at the American Psychological Association National Convention thought that they, superheroes, would isolate boys. Who wouldn't want to depend on others or espouse idealistic masculinity and trap young boys in impossible versions of cartoonist machoism? Our society is one that sends too many mixed messages to children, and they do not need to be receiving this message at such a young age. Finally, there is some exposure of sexual content found in the superhero movie Captain America: The First Avenger. There is some flirting and a few kisses. However, there is an implied mooning and soldiers gawking at women in dresses, which sends children the wrong message about relationships with the opposite sex. Regardless of the amount of sex contained in a film, young children do not need to be exposed to this type of conditioning to the opposite sex. In the end, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, is the good guy who defeats the evil Red Skull. With that said, the movie Captain America: The First Avenger is still not an appropriate movie for young children. The dialogue used, the violence and special effects displayed, the sexual content are all too much for children of this age group to process in a developmentally appropriate way. Unfortunately, many children will be taken to this movie and other superhero movies because their parents want to see the movies, and they think the moral of the story will be good for the child. This thinking is commendable, but it is the separate pieces of the superhero movies that make them inappropriate for children to view, including Captain America: The First Avenger. To sum it up, in the movie, Howard Stark, the inventor of the machine that transforms Steve Rogers into Captain America, calmly states, "Seems harmless enough. Hard to see what all the fuss is about." And we need to ask, or is it harmless?